Heyo. I forgot to put my glasses up. So you can see the reflection, I'm sure. That's what reminded me that I had them on my face. Oh well. Chilling tonight with a drink before laying down. Finally finished Bravely Default. Finally. Well, one of the endings, and I'm satisfied with it. I don't know if it was the quote-unquote good ending, bad ending, or true ending, if that's a thing. I kept getting conflicting results because one problem with looking up things about Bravely Default is that you'll be reading through it and then realize that, oh wait, no, they're talking about Bravely Default 2. Why is this here? So that's always fun. An interesting point to note, though, is, without spoilers, I could have achieved this ending a lot earlier. And I'm guessing the true ending is the one that takes the longest. So this probably wasn't the true ending, but I don't care. I spent so many days playing that game. I was, I had I think there was a one last hidden job that I didn't find that required getting, like, maybe an ending first, or two of the endings first. I don't know. I found all of the jobs that are, like, I filled up the job wheel, so if there was a hidden job, I don't care. I maxed out every job, I maxed out all my party's levels, and I finished the game, and the last boss was a joke. Well, when you go that far, you're not playing to fight the final boss anymore. Like, I defeated a good majority of all the optional bosses and stuff like that, and if you know a good RPG, you know that if you've done all that, the final boss is gonna be a bit of a joke. But all that said, it is a good little game, and I think if I ever want to revisit it, instead of going back to that file and doing more, I'll just pick up the sequel. Play it on the Switch, better hardware and all that good stuff. Internet data reset today, and I immediately spent it downloading PSO2 New Genesis. I was gonna log in and see how it ran. I've been a bit concerned, which, I mean, it all comes down to how well they did it, because, like, I'm concerned because I ran things like Inquisition fine, but then you have Monster Hunter World that I had to run on next to minimum settings. But then again, the base game of, the original PSO2 ran fine, but I'm fairly sure that the initial release for that game and the structure that it was built on going forward came out in like 2012, so I'm not surprised it ran so easily. The more I think about it, it was just finally released globally a year or two ago or something like that, in preparation for this new Genesis, which I believe had I'll have to look this up, but I want to say it had what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it had a unified worldwide launch, I'm pretty sure. It's available on different platforms in different regions. Like, here it's only in both it's available on PC, but like here it's only available on the Series X, and in Japan it's available on PS4 and PS5, and I kind of wish it was available on PS4 here. I don't even think I'd mind starting over that much, just because that way I could be more confident it's going to work. But yeah, I booted it up, was going to log in, see if it would run, and maintenance. Of course. I've been sitting on this for like a good 2 weeks, waiting for my data reset so I could download it in less than 7 years, and also download it without being completely unable to do anything else with my internet. Um, that was the big thing. Like, even trying to cap it lower than it was downloading, Steam just ate all of the bandwidth, and like I couldn't watch YouTube anymore. And just like, if you're gonna cut off my background noise, then I'm sorry. I don't want anything to do with you right now. Yeah, I got that downloaded. I've got like I'd been saying, I kind of had the hankering to go back to Final Fantasy 3, and I looked around at some different stuff and settled on the PSP version, which is a port of a port, but apparently a good one. Um, so, for reference, when I say Final Fantasy 3, I actually mean Final Fantasy 3, not Final Fantasy 3 outside of Japan, which was actually Final Fantasy 6. Which is fascinating to me, even to the point where on the SNES Classic, it's still billed as Final Fantasy 3, even though we know better these days. So that's weird. Um, Even weirder considering, well, I mean, again, they probably just put in the original ROM, but it would have been nice if they took the time to actually update that to its official release name, like its actual name, not its at release name. Because I think it came out on the GBA later as just like a slightly cleaned up port of this NES game, and it was appropriately labeled 6 then. But anyway, the point being, there's no way to play the original Final Fantasy 3, which I don't think I would have wanted to do anyway, because it's on the NES. And while Final Fantasies 1 through 3 were revolutionary and groundbreaking, by all accounts, the original versions are not the best to play, between certain things being broken. And like, I watched a video on Final Fantasy 1, the original Final Fantasy 1, at some point, and it was like, it's a revolutionary game that is still fun to play, but not the original version. Play like the GBA version, because like there was a version on the GBA that included 1 and 2, or at one point there was a collection on the original PlayStation. Like after the success of Final Fantasy 7, they ported. They had like a couple of different collections of like 1 and 2, and like 5 and 6, I think. I think one of them inexplicably also had Chrono Trigger on it. It may have even been the one with 6 on it. Like, I don't know. I can't remember. I should be. I should clarify that I'm kind of telling that story secondhand through Vinny. But also, I just, like, in looking for what the best version of Final Fantasy 3 to play, I came across like several different lists of, here is the best version of all of the mainline Final Fantasy titles to play. I'm just like, Jesus, okay, this is extensive. And it was just like, and a lot of the answers were obvious. Or at least obvious in that you shouldn't be playing the original. But what I didn't realize is there are more faithful ports of Final Fantasy IV in particular. And the DS one is harder, apparently, than the original game. Now, I don't know how, but like that would explain a lot about me never finishing it. But like, I want to say 2 different lists that I found said don't start with the DS one. Either pick up the one on PlayStation Network, which I think you can get. I think you can get it on PS. That might be a PSP one as well. I can't remember for sure, but they were, more faithful ports as far as preserving and cleaning up sprite work, and just keeping the game as is. Not that the DS ports of 3 and 4 were bad, but like 3 is fine. unless you hate the style of it. You know, it's more or less accurate. Um, the it was later ported to mobile, and then ported the mobile port of 3 was ported to PSP. And the few extra bells and whistles are like, you know, different cleaned up UIs. The original the 3DS, the original DS version insisted on using Wi-Fi connection for certain optional side quests and stuff, and that's gone in the mobile and PSP ports. And for purists, the ability to swap back to the original soundtrack, which I intend to do back and forth. Um, but yeah, so I'm thinking about starting that tomorrow. I booted it up and messed around with it a bit today, um, and then crashed it before I got to a save point. So I was trying to borderless window it, borderless full screen it. So like, I've noticed that, or like, I came across this originally when I was playing Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, which is a title that makes you think there are more than one Metal Gear Rising games. There is more than one Metal Gear Rising game, and there is sadly not. Someone should fix that. Preferably Platinum. I think they did the original. I don't remember now. Platinum would do a good sequel, though. Platinum's really good at that kind of game. Um, Maybe they should be doing that instead of whatever the hell Babylon's Tower is. Or maybe they should just finish Bayonetta 3 already. Anyway, I was experiencing, like, choppy frame rates in full screen, and I thought it was I thought it was my computer. I'm like, oh man, I'm not gonna be able to run this. Looked it up, and no, it was a well-known and documented problem with full screen, and a wonderful program called Borderless Full Screen, which, as it sounds, allows you to basically run the game in windowed mode, but remove the window so it looks like full screen. In games that you can do this with literally any window. So for games that don't support it, so like if it runs fine in a window, even at the right resolution, instead of having to deal with the window around it, possibly even cutting off some of it, you can just throw it in this program. And when I threw, I think the mistake I made, actually no, I was going to say I think the mistake I made was not taking it out of full screen first, but no, probably just need to do it before launching the game, honestly. Because when I did it to whatever it's called, it's a dumb name, PPSSPP, I think. Great job, guys. Excellent naming. It just crashed. But yeah, I've talked a lot today for some reason. I took a nap today. I don't know if that's because I woke up earlier than I wanted to. Like, I was feeling like crap, and I laid down, and I was kind of half-heartedly playing from bed, because at the time I was just grinding. And I fell asleep for like an hour and a half. And I always feel like a crap for a good few hours after getting a nap. I don't know how to explain the weird feeling I have. It's... The word that keeps coming to mind is sandpaper, but, like, I feel like sandpaper isn't a sentence that makes sense. I feel like my textures haven't loaded in. So, like, imagine looking at a character whose textures haven't fully loaded in, and whatever you think they'd feel like, which I imagine would feel blurry. But, it tastes blue, right? No. Blurry's the best word I can come up with right now. It's like this weird sensation that's almost like the very tail end of like when your arm's asleep, but I feel it all over my body, and it's not pleasant. Also, when I woke up, my throat was sore. That's gone now, thankfully. I don't know, man. It's honestly a miracle I function as well as I do. I have the eating habits of a child. I don't exercise. I really need to take better care of myself. Like just physically. So like when I come up with like I feel weird, and I'm like, I don't have any reason to not feel weird on most days, you know. But it's still hard for me to put a finger on more often than not. Anyway, I don't know why I'm babbling like this, but I am. So I'm just gonna. I'll catch you all tomorrow.